Hey, HCDA, and today I want to show you another showcase of the Endless Legend 2 demo, but this time around I want to stop kind of over-explaining everything and just show you a more concise playthrough so you can really see how things go from the beginning to the end. Of course, concise, and especially when it comes to these games, it might be a little bit optimistic, but yeah, let's do some exploring and let's see what we have to work with. We have quite a bit of anomalies around by the looks of it, so I am going to do some exploring. Let's split this guy off and move into this direction, and then let's take our hero, I don't know, maybe in this direction. I'm a little bit surprised I haven't found any villages yet. Well, there's one, and this one is going to be hostile. So that is a thing, apparently, that we'll need to deal with. And what type of starting locations do we have to work with? This would be a very strong location, honestly, with 10 food and 10 production. So a little bit in a corner as well. Yeah, that might not be the worst place to start. We actually do have an anomaly close to us as well. I'm kind of liking this starting place. Oh, but how about this? If we actually locate our city over here, we do get even more food at the expense of some less production, but we also get stability, and we have an anomaly here and one over here. So if we place a science building over here, that's going to be producing a lot of stuff. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for that location specifically. Okay, this is even more interesting. If I place it down over here, I would get even more food at the expense of one more production, but I do have another anomaly over here, so I have several of these nice science locations. Not entirely sure if that actually works if it's in a neighboring region, but we're about to find out, because I do want to test that and see if that works. First thing I'm going to build in my main city is, of course, the Sanctity of Nature, which is going to give me a huge boost to everything in this city, and that is going to go a long way to making sure I can expand this as quickly as possible. And now I have my city. We have plenty of food, so I don't need to focus on that. I think we're fine on influence right now. So what I want to pick up is the strength of Garin, so we can have the additional defense as well as production on our military things. I definitely want to get one of these laboratories up as soon as possible for some additional science. And then I think I'm actually going to go into scavenging for a change to see if that kind of holds up. This is going to buff my units quite a bit. And if we look at the map, I actually have 3 villages, I think. It's only 2? I thought there were 3. Anyway, but both of them are hostile at the moment. So we're going to have to be defending ourselves. And that's a lot easier to do if your units are stronger. In the meanwhile, it also seems that we have one of the enemies actually over here right around the corner, which is also a little bit inconvenient considering apparently they also started out right next door to me. Which means I am going to be claiming this region because that kind of blocks them off from this area. Not permanently, but at least for now. So expanding towards your neighbor is a little bit of an aggressive thing to do, I guess. Let's just double check if this is the best location. So can I? Actually, it's gonna be fine, I think. The nice thing is this is actually going to kind of consolidate my city over here as well, making it a little easier to defend than average. And this is a pretty decent zone to get. There's a lot of stuff in this area, and there's a nice little anomaly over here that's going to provide additional food. Long story short, I think this is a perfectly okay thing to do. We've also got our first quest to search the mosaic halls, and apparently these are on the other side of the world. Well, not entirely actually, they're just outside of my other zone, but they are about as far from my cities as you can get, with all of these hostile enemies in between. So I'm a little nervous about venturing out all the way over there to grab that, but I think we have no choice. I did get my second population now, and let's make sure that is actually focused on production, because that's where our kin are good at, because they get the additional bonus when they're artisans. And that also means I'm now very close to finishing my first improvement. Okie dokie, so the mosaic halls are right over here. Let's visit that, let's finish the quest, and now we're going to get another quest which is going to be extremely useful, because this is going to give us 100 influence. And all we need to do in order to complete that one is to destroy the Necro Horde, which is apparently hiding out even further away from my main base. With the improvement up and running in that main base, I am now going to construct a keep. I think I'll do that probably over here to start out with. That is going to be equivalent to a workshop almost, with the addition of providing me some more approval, as well as progressing my main feature of my race, because of course we do need that fortification in order to boost our strength of zeal. Okay, so I found the horde. This is not a hard battle whatsoever, and of course in this case doing the manual battle when you're closely matched is typically better because the AI isn't too good at that, honestly. But this is going to give me the 100 influence I need to go to the little camp we just found, attach it to my city, and there we go. Now we kind of blocked out the enemy from over here. Not to mention that we did get a pretty decent amount of gold out of all of this, so I am going to buy out my production and let's figure out what we're going to do next. I think I'm gonna set up another district over here, and this is going to be that laboratory, which is going to give me 6 science in total, which is a massive amount considering that's 50% more than I'm currently producing. Meanwhile, I also have to start doing something about these villages all around the map, otherwise I'm just gonna be harassed non-stop. I could do quests, but honestly I just want to take them out and get some experience on my units while I do that. Now this is going to be a little bit tight because even though I do outnumber them basically, these guys are still pretty strong and there's quite a few of them on the map. So I do need to make sure I don't get weak enough for them to start taking me out in reprisal. But all in all, I think we should be fine doing it like this. Now if I do an instant resolution, my hero is going to get killed, so we're not going to do that. I'm going to do this manually. And there you go, that looks a lot better than what the AI was going to do for me, and we're pretty close to leveling up our units. Our hero actually already leveled up, and look at that, we actually got some equipment as well on top of this. This equipment is a lot better than what I currently have. It's going to boost my health by, I think, 30, and give me some resilience and defense on top of that. So all in all, this is really, really good. And in terms of allocating my skill points, I'm going to go with this supported attack because that's going to really drive a synergy between my melee units that are going to be standing next to the enemy units, most likely, and my range unit that's going to be standing right behind them. So, honestly, all of these options are really good, but I think this is going to be a nice little combination between my melee units, especially considering my special unit for this faction is going to be, initially at least, the chosen one, which is a melee unit, so that synergizes nicely with this as well. Back in my city, I'm now up to 3 population, and we do have a quest to have 3 artisans at the same time, which I can do in a couple of different ways. I could just build a new district and make that a communal habitations. That is going to allow me to put more people in all the different slots. However, that building is not really going to give us anything by itself, which I don't think is ideal, but what I can do, I think that is what I'm going to go for, is place a laboratory over here, which is going to give me a whopping 8 science on top of what I already have. So this is going to make me pretty advanced, I think, in terms of technology. This is going to give me 8 because it's actually between 3 different anomalies, which is not the most common thing to get. So we might as well completely abuse that. Now I do want to complete my quest, so that means that I'm going to go to my technology. And I am going to skip the forum for now, and I'm gonna go straight into fencing, because this is also going to unlock a different citizen slot and artisan slot on my capital, and that's all I need right now. And then after that, I am going to pick up the forum, and then we have one more technology remaining that we can pick out of all of these, which is either going to be currency, I think, or civil order. I don't have any particular need for bridges, so we're going to skip that for now. I'm gonna go on cleanup duty a little bit and clean out these warriors over here. Now, if we attack them and we do an instant resolution, it is still a lot of damage, so I think I can do better by myself. Oh, look, we found a new empire, and these are the unfriendly guys, so let's see if they want to be friends. I don't think that's going to be the case. No, they do want to share a resource if I give them everything that I have. Yeah, long story short, these guys do not want to be trading with me. Okay, well, I guess that's good to know. Not entirely sure I'm happy about these guys being right next door, but it is what it is. Meanwhile, I completed my fencing research, which should mean I can now place one of you guys in here. There we go. And that should complete the quest on the next turn. In the meanwhile, I do have some spare money to go around, or dust I should say, so let's buy out this thing over here. And then the real question is, what do I want to build next? I could build a farm, which would speed up the growth of my city a little bit. I think I have, well, actually I could build a farm, for example, over here. It would not be the worst position, although it's just +2. That seems a little bit underwhelming, to be honest. I have plenty of science, although I could build some more sciencey things over here, for example, but I think I'm just gonna go for a keep. I did not want to build the keep there, at least not necessarily. It's not the worst position in it, honestly. But yeah, I am going to cancel this, and I am just gonna build the keep, I think, over there. Now, actually, let me think about this for a moment, because I do want a forum sooner rather than later. And that forum is probably going to be built over here. So in that case, I should be building the keep over here, because if I'm correct, then the forum benefits from being adjacent to other districts. Yes, they are. So yeah, we're going to build the keep here and then the forum here. And look at that, we did our quest. We have now unlocked the Chosen unit, which is really strong, honestly. And on top of that, we can also build more than one Chosen. And I think I'm actually gonna get one Chosen to come along with that. Now for the next quest, we have to decide whether or not we are going to search the Hermit's Abode, or if we're going to use Rejuvenate twice, and then we're going to get one kin. The Wisdom of Karin is going to buff my military districts with providing me with additional signs, so I think that might be an interesting thing to get. That does mean we need to go and venture out to find the Hermit's Abode, and if we get unlucky it might be in a position that we can't reach, but that's the risk we're going to take because I do like this option quite a bit. Okay, the Hermit's Abode is over here, which is probably going to be in the general neighborhood of my enemy, but that at least means I can keep my army on the side of my enemy, which is never a bad thing. Our Chosen one spawned all the way over here, which is a little bit unfortunately, because I was just moving out my, my army over here to make sure I could take out this village. But we're going to combine that. We should still have an empty spot in our army. Yep, that is correct. So then we can take out this village and then start moving on to the Hermit. And with my Chosen now in my army, we should have no problem taking out this village. Now let me check the instant resolution again. I don't know what the AI is doing this time around. It used to be a little bit better, I have to say, but this is definitely not the outcome I want. So once again, I'll just have to do it manually. And there you go, that was a lot better, and the main reason I was able to do so is because this was a little bit of a weird map with a lot of choke points, and I just stood my army in front of one of the choke points, had my archer shoot at them, and made sure that no more than 1 or 2 enemies could attack me at the same time. And as you can see, I got a whole lot of experience out of that. And I defeated 5 enemies, and we even got a rare weapon. Now this is a 2-handed weapon, which is going to be completely useless for my current archer hero. But you know, maybe the next hero that we recruit might be able to use this. And since I leveled up my hero, I'm gonna pick up Chosen of the Chosen, which is a really weird name, but basically this means that whenever I gain shield, I gain even more shield, which is going to be useful because I'm constantly gaining shield because we're standing next to each other in our army. So, you know, that seems like a pretty nice way to make my ranged unit a little bit more durable. We've encountered our first special unit, and this guy is going to do what? Talk to the forest, apparently. Let's see, what do you want from me? We can either fell a big tree, which is going to give me industry on our main city for a while. Or we can just leave them alone, I guess, and get some free science. Or we can get 10 additional defense on my legion for the duration of 10 turns. I don't think this is going to be particularly awesome. I mean, 10 defense is a lot. I also don't really care about this production. I mean, production is never a bad thing, but I don't want to cut down the trees. So this guy wants to protect the trees. I'm just gonna go with him and study the trees and get some science out of that. In order to get to the Hermit, I'm gonna need to pass through this guy's territory. He's not going to enjoy that, but yeah. I do need to get to my quest, and let's see, is it actually in his territory or not? That would be even more inconvenient, because these guys can close their territories to us, and then we would simply not be able to get through anymore. And yeah, they just did exactly that, so now if we want to get through their borders, we'll need to declare war. So I'm hoping that this Hermit, yep, I think it's over here, is actually outside of his border, so that is very convenient, because otherwise, well, declaring war in order to progress the quest is not necessarily a bad idea, but not really what I want to do in this point of the game, because I don't really have a lot of army. I do also want to keep expanding, which I should probably already have done, but balancing everything at the same time is always a little bit challenging. So what we can actually do is spend just a tiny little bit of gold to complete this, and then we can build ourselves another unit. Maybe we will build a scout, because that will help us kind of explore a bit further as well. And speaking of expanding, we can do exactly that with a forum, and we're going to place that where we planned, so over there. I am going to actually just straight out buy the unit that I was building, so I can start exploring and expanding as quickly as possible, because I do have quite a bit of influence sitting here, and we are going to be producing even more influence in a moment. Now, in terms of expanding, the enemy is over here. I'm not sure what is over here. I haven't really done a lot of exploring there. But if I take this zone, as you can see on the map, if I take this zone, this is kind of gonna lock these two areas away, at least from this enemy. So hopefully that means I can just take these and maybe get a second city up or later as well. And I do think if I use these two anomalies over here, then this would be a fairly decent location. I think the anomaly is actually in the different zone. So that raises the question of where I do want to put this. Well, I think this is still a pretty decent location in terms of the gains. And just as I settled that camp, we are now also in a new era, which means we have access to some more powerful technologies. We can still pick up these other things, by the way, so it's not like you lose out on these. But obviously these technologies are going to be a lot stronger. Now the real question is, what do I want to pick up first? Because there's a lot more options, as you can see over here. We're going to need to pick 8 out of them in order to progress even further. So yeah, let me think about this for a moment. Okay, I think there's 2 contenders at this point, because the downside of being in this era a little bit early actually is that I don't really have the materials you need to build a lot of stuff that you can unlock at this point. However, I could go for the material science to get even more science production up and running. And I can actually build a geodesic dome that would supercharge my laboratories. You do need some special materials for that, but I actually have those already because I got some from those random goodie huts that I picked up. But I'm going to go for the common rights, because this is going to give me instant more influence production, which is always nice. But it's also going to allow me to build the scriptorium, which again I do have the resources for. And that is just going to give me a massive boost to my influence production. And we're already doing pretty well on science, so I don't think that's the main priority. Could also go for some of the more military stuff, or even food. Again, none of this is bad, but we are going to be able to pick up most of this anyway. But for now, I think the influence is going to be benefiting us the most. Meanwhile, we reached the Hermit, and we are going to be talking to them. And we need to bring 15 glass steel to the long-submerged ruins. And this is going to allow us to get that reward. Now, where are those ruins? Oh, look, they're even further away. This is, honestly, this is a little bit unlucky, because sometimes you get everything really close to your main base. But again, it is what it is, and we'll have to deal with that. We don't currently have enough glass steel to do any of that, though. So, you know, that is going to be somewhere further down the road. On the bright side, we do get to recruit another hero, and I do think that between all of these options, this one, Areka, is by far the strongest, because she has this particular upgrade that gives a massive boost to my military districts. Look at that. That's just... It's the equivalent of one of those specialized buildings on every single military district that I have. I already have 2 of them, so... yeah, there's just no way I'm not going to pick this particular hero. If you compare that to, for example, minus 25% growth to all populations, which by itself is really good. I mean, this is going to provide me with a lot of extra food that is not going to be equivalent to that, but it's going to be pretty damn close if you compare to all the other benefits I get from that. So, you know, and especially if you compare to, for example, getting some cheaper units or getting some better farms, all in all, I think this one clearly wins out. We can also have our heroes be friends, which feels a little bit weird sometimes, but they are basically better when they're fighting together. There's definitely a benefit of having these units in their own armies, and that's why I said it feels a little bit weird, because having all your heroes in the same army does kind of put all your eggs in the same basket, so it's not always good in the long run. But anyway, for the moment, that is just fine. Now, she actually starts out at level 2 as well. And let me check this out. We can knock someone back, which is not particularly what I want. We could make her a little bit more defensible. Sure. We could increase the health of our units in the army, or we could gain, when defending, gains additional shield. That could be really interesting, because this would make her the ultimate defensive unit, while we can have the other guy doing additional damage. Interesting, interesting. We could also just go for this this skill over here, but no. This one could actually be really nice as well. Just have her have a lot of passive defense, thereby being more tanky herself. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for that, so she can still attack and doesn't have to take that defensive option every turn. Sadly, she is not able to use that spear either, so yeah, we're just stuck with the base armor that we already had. She has a pretty decent weapon to begin with though, so that's not the worst thing in the world, but it would have been nice if we could use our rare weapon. So, you know, in preparation for our upgrade to the keeps, let's build some more of them. We already have 2, so let's add a 3rd to our main town. And the rain is starting and we're going to get our first monsoon, which is quite convenient because we just got the new hero, which we can immediately assign to our factions now. So we can unlock the faction seats. There we go. We can appoint someone over here. So that is going to be her. This is going to give us that massive upgrade to our military district. And then the real question is, who is going to be the second one? We can get some more industry on our capitals. We could get a massive discount actually to our influence on foundations. So that could be interesting. Or we could get some experience on non-heroes. That doesn't look all that interesting. I think, well, honestly, I don't need a lot of production at this point. Yet, at least. So let's just get the reduced cost on foundations. Actually, I'm not going to immediately use this because I am saving up to expand, so then getting the additional production on my city is probably going to be best. So apply these changes. Let's close this overview. Let's go to my town over here. Check this out. The massive amounts of gains we have on these tiles now, and look at all of this. This is a very overpowered capital for sure. Oh, okay, so the enemy is trying to lash out at me, and, well, I can't blame them for doing so. However, I am just going to run. I'm going to take some damage, but I definitely don't want to fight this and lose my unit. I'm kind of going to lash back on my own accord as well, because I'm going to attach this to my city, and that makes it the 3rd territory that can do so. The enemy is getting a little bit closer than I would like, and I actually didn't realize that there was a town here down here. I could have kind of guessed, I guess, from the unit spawning there, but we definitely want to have these people become part of our empire at some point. But for the moment, I think I am just going to have to move back my army. What is this? This is a very strong enemy unit. And it is kind of in a way. That is weird and inconvenient. And I can't apparently get through because they closed the borders to me. So I might have to declare war on these guys just to be able to get back home. Well, we'll deal with that next turn. Okay, so remember how I said I didn't need bridges? Well, if I would have had unlocked those bridges, I could now just build a bridge over here in my city. So I might still want to do that anyway, because this is going to be quite inconvenient otherwise. Meanwhile, I can build the military press improvement now, which is going to buff all my military districts even further. So I'm gonna be drowning in influence in a moment, but yeah, and I haven't even built the scriptorium yet. So this is going to be awesome. If we look at that, that is going to give me another, oh, it's actually only 7 influence, but I'm going to be allowed to spread that around like crazy. We are actually up to a happy population now as well, which is going to give me a little bit of a boost. If I check out my production here, for example, because we're happy, we're actually going to get, I think it's 20% boost or something like that, 15. So we get, yeah, it's probably about 15 because we get 13. So if we were to be at 85 normally, then the 13 makes sense. So yeah, all in all, I think we're doing pretty well, but the hero being locked out of this particular zone is a little inconvenient. Okay, so while we're at it, I'm gonna, now we're producing a lot of everything, just focus on producing a bit more of an army. So I'm gonna queue up a couple of these chosen so we have the maximum amount of those. Having your special units completely maxed out is never a bad idea to begin with, and that should hopefully allow me to defend myself a bit better against the enemy, and maybe at some point we'll actually take the fight to the enemy, but I definitely need some more military strength before I can do that. However, the monsoon is over, so hopefully this area is going to be lowered now as a result of that, and maybe I'll get a different path home. That would be ideal, so let's find out if that is actually the case. It does look like we might be able to move through here now, although there's still some water here as well, so let me go and find out. Meanwhile, we got another event, which we can either fight some enemies or fight some other enemies and get a bunch of titanium, or what we were getting here, a whole bunch of dust, which doesn't seem too exciting. We can be immobile for 2 turns and get some boots out of that. I mean, that's not the worst thing. movement points on your hero. I think I'm gonna go for that. I mean, that could be fairly interesting, and we can see what that leads us to next. And yeah, it does seem that my enemy is kind of stuck on this side of the map at this point. I might just want to declare war on my enemies, because I don't really want to build a bridge specifically for that purpose. On the other hand, building bridges in general isn't probably not the worst thing either, because having to move all the way around here is not ideal. So what I could also do alternatively is just start preparing for war, which I'm kind of doing anyway, and just try to take out this enemy, because that would also clear the way to the glass steel that we need in order to further progress our quest. I also want to make sure I start actually using some of the influence I'm now massively gathering up. I want to make sure I incorporate some of these villages into my cities now, and in order to do that I do need to make sure I clear them out. Can I instant resolute this? Yes, I can. That does speed things up quite a bit. And then we can see if we can go to the city and maybe we can just bribe them. I mean, that's the quick way of doing that. Did I just bribe them or not? I think I need to be next to them in order to do that, so let's pass another turn. And no, they have a pretty sizable army. Let's just spend some money and do it like that. Let's see. Are they now assimilated? I can't tell. I thought we were supposed to see something happening when that was actually the case. But we can probably tell if we go to the Protectorate overview now. Yeah, we should be able to... There's one sacked village now and one pacified village. So I can assimilate these guys into my army, or into my kingdom, I should say. And this is going to give me additional 4 defense, because I have 2 of these villages, on all my units. So this is going to make me a lot more durable in battle. Another nice way to progress and use my influence is getting Creed upgraded. So this will allow me to build the Emergency Dwellings Improvement, which is going to allow me to attach another territory to my cities. So that's quite useful, because what I can then do is claim this territory over here, make sure that I have this... Well, actually I might be able to take this one over here instead. It's an interesting choice. Alternatively, we could get this zone over here that was just uncovered. Maybe there's some valuable resources in there. There are several new enemy minor factions on the map as well that are all going to be angry at me. All in all, we have our work cut out for us. It does seem that the enemy is spreading around quite a bit as well, so we definitely want to make sure we can keep up with them. And then claiming this territory is probably... We can actually just do that straight away. It's probably not the worst decision in the world in any regard, because this just kind of claims this zone for myself for the moment. For some reason, that also meant that the enemy units are now creeping in, but we can just start clearing them out, hopefully. And they are going to run away, and obviously that is definitely what I would do instead as well, because yeah, they're no match for me. These are all relatively small armies. So the enemy over here is trying to sack my camp, which is obviously not what I want to happen. So I'm just going to attack them back. We do outnumber them, even though it's not that much. The instant resolution is once again going to get my scout killed. Although, honestly, at this point, I don't really need my scout. So I could just replace that with a better unit as soon as I can actually recombine some of my armies. But I think we can use the terrain to our advantage to see if I can do better myself. Well, the short answer is no, I didn't do any better, but I did take out a hero of the enemy and a lot of their army as well. So all in all, I do think this is a pretty acceptable outcome. Meanwhile, I've built myself my own little camp over here, which I can now either attach to a city, but I can't do that because I don't have any cities more than have room for that. But I can evolve this into a city of its own, which I'm going to do right now, because that will give me yet some more area to play with. Remember that I can now once again start connecting things to this city as well, although this can only attach 1 territory, but we're about to upgrade that. So, you know, that is very nice. There's also 3 of these solisks over here, which we haven't converted yet to our empire. But if I look at my technology tree, I think over here, yeah, we unlock this one next, and that is what we're going to be doing. We can get a second minor faction into our empire, and that should allow us to convert these 3 as well as this one over here, I think. Yeah, because this one is actually also in my territory. It's interesting that we have 3 cities in a single territory over here. but there's actually 2 of one type and 1 of the other. And usually it's all of the same types, at least that has been the case in my experience so far. I do have to pacify the village first though, and I've did exactly that, and look at that, we got another one of those spears. Not entirely sure why we're getting all of those spears, but especially considering we can't use them, but that is at least 2 of those villages out of the equation, 1 to go. Meanwhile, I just keep spamming some additional keeps in the city I already have, because, you know, these are completely overpowered at this point. Look at all the gains I'm gonna get just from building a single one. And yeah, that is just going to completely make this city ridiculous. Oh look, how fun! The enemy decided to declare war on me instead. I think they felt that coming, and honestly that's not the worst thing in the world, because now I can just start moving in their direction, and we can see if we can put those 2 heroes and their armies to good use. Now honestly I don't have that many units at this point yet, so I might want to divert a little bit from what I was doing. And start building some more units. Specifically, we have some of these faction units now available. The Huntress is maybe not the worst in the world. Some archers couldn't hurt either. I think in general, just building a couple of all of these units is probably going to be best. And we can churn them out quite rapidly now, considering all the industry we have. And look at that, they even came towards my walls and are now laying siege to my city. You can just endure the defense, and considering how much defense we have, this can take you some pretty decent amount of turns, as you can see. However, we can also just launch a sortie, and this is going to attack the enemy right back. And as you can see, we kind of outnumber them. The militia in our city outnumbers them. So doing that could make a pretty nice dent in our armies. Now, I'm not entirely sure why it says that there's 900 strength units in the battle while we're only can see these 475 over here, 57 I should say. We have a lot of reinforcements available, so this should not be a problem to defend. And yup, we took out all of their units without losing any of our own, so I'd say that's a pretty successful battle. And more importantly, this means that we've now severely weakened our enemy, so we can kind of go on the counterattack and hopefully push through their defenses ourselves. Thanks to that combat, I could also upgrade my hero now to level 3, or 4, what is it? Level 4 actually, and pick up the Unbreakable Will. This is going to mean she gets additional shield every time she takes damage, so it's kind of like lowering the damage by a total of 12 per hit, so that is going to be quite substantial. Okay, so we got the foreign affairs now, and that means we can go to our protectorates, we can assimilate these guys into our army now. It's going to give a massive boost to intuition and might for all my heroes, because we have quite a few of these cities. We have a total of 4 of them in our territory, so yeah, if we now go to our heroes, so let me find one of them over here. Let's check them out. I can't actually see that on my heroes just yet. Might take a moment to process, but I did add them, right? Yeah, so +1 intuition per pacified village. Yeah, not entirely sure why it's not showing up. It is a demo still, so maybe this is just something that needs to be finalized. But we should see that propping up pretty soon. Now we have some nice armies moving out. We have an enemy city over here. Let's see if we can find our way to win a war before the end of this game. Now, I am ranking up quite substantially, as you can see, so I'm not in the first place just yet. But if we can take a city from our enemy, I think that should put us in first place. I think I'm just gonna go back and upgrade this keystone technology over here, because honestly this river is kind of getting in the way. Even if I can build a bridge between here, this is going to make my resupply lines much shorter than they would otherwise be. Something else I'm now going to start doing, which I probably should have started sooner, is use my Divine Service. This is going to cost me 25 influence to turn one of my kin into a divine population, and you can see over here what that does. So my normal kin only get a +2 industry once they're artisan, so these 4 are perfectly fine just there. But these divine populations give me plus industry, plus dust and science, regardless of where they are allocated. So having these beacon scribes just give me additional bonuses compared to these kin not actually doing anything other than giving me the normal yields. The reason I say I should have probably done this earlier is because there's a cooldown. Now, speaking of population, there's something that's puzzling me, so if you know the answer to this, let me know in the comments. I have one destitute kin, which apparently is destitute because there's no other slots available, But as far as I can tell, I still have 4 citizen slots available, so I'm not entirely sure why I can't just place them in there. It doesn't matter if I redistribute this either. For some reason, there seems to be a maximum amount of 8 that I can place in here, and the rest is going to be destitute. So yeah, it's kind of puzzling to me. I haven't found an answer to that, so let me know in the comments if you do know the answer. Meanwhile, let's start besieging our enemies' cities, and hopefully by moving my other units close to them, that will allow me to help them fortify each other as well, because otherwise this is going to take a very long time and be a very lethal affair. Meanwhile, I'm gonna try and build myself a lodgings over here. Hopefully that will kind of fix my population issues. Let's see if it does. Yep, it definitely did something. I can probably redistribute this a little bit further. There we go. Now we have a massive amount of production in this city, and we don't actually kind of want to upgrade our defined populations even further, because that would mean we are actually going down in production, although we would be gaining some science and dust out of that. Although honestly, all of that is not super impactful compared to what we're already producing. The downside of taking villages through combat is that you do have to repair them if you want to get access to their population. So I'm going to do exactly that. My second city is already turning out to be a pretty decent one, and I haven't even extended its territory yet. I did build my scout now, so I can start exploring and see what type of territory I do want to add. Maybe one of these lower territories over here, or why not both? Well, the enemy wants to make peace again and give me some influence to do that, but honestly I just want to see what happens if I continue to attack his city, so I'm not gonna do that. Oh, I also found where all the strategic resources are. Apparently they were down south over here. We have some hydromeal over here. We have some titanium deposit over here, although I do have to clear out this dungeon first. And this thing is actually pretty easy to defeat, and there's going to be a lot of loot in there as well. But it is pretty much on the other side of where I'm currently fighting, so I'm not going to be able to do that anytime soon until I get into a position where I can actually move my armies there. In the meanwhile, I can actually, in order to get the titanium, I would need to clear out the dungeon, but I can take the zone with the hydromeal by taking this zone, and well, you know, I might as well expand to that zone first. Okay, so I've acquired the zone now. It's a little bit of an awkward zone, but I'm hoping that the sea will go down further, basically increasing the value of this particular piece of land. But in the meanwhile, we did unlock the hydromeal deposit over here, so I can now just go to my city and start building a quarry over here, which will then start producing this on a non-stop basis. Now, it's actually one of the types that we don't have access to yet. Not sure yet what I'm going to be using it for, but it's a luxury resource, I believe. It is one of those over here, and I can activate that to get an increased dust production on my city. So, you know, it's not the immediately most useful thing, but it is free additional bonuses that I can get just by building that one quarry. Meanwhile, my assault over here did everything it can. I think it's time to start to attack the enemy outright, and the only thing I'm really confused about is why I do not have any reinforcements available. I clearly have reinforcements standing right next to me and also over there, but I'm not entirely sure what determines whether or not these reinforcements will be available during the battle. Maybe they will actually be available, it's just not showing up right now. But that does mean that I'm probably not going to win the initial battle, but at least my secondary army should be able to take out any stragglers. That means that my hero is probably going to be killed, but those heroes do respawn after I think it's like 5 or 6 turns. So it's not ideal to get your hero killed, of course. But if that is what it takes to take an entire city away from the enemy, if that is actually how this is going to work, I think it's worth it. Oh, look, there we go. I pressed the assault button and now the reinforcements are actually showing up. We can pick which ones we want to bring in, but I'm thinking just bringing in 2 heroes with their entire army is probably going to do the trick. This also means I am now completely outnumbering the enemy, so all in all, I think we should be fine. I do have to say, it's kind of fun to do a large manual battle like this, although you don't want to do every single battle by yourself because that's just going to take way too much time. But I do think we should be able to get a better result than what the AI just gave us. So the interesting thing is I was actually able to capture the control point of the city, and that allows me to instantly route the army. Well, you need to keep it for a turn, but that's all there is to it. Didn't lose any units myself, and I didn't do significant damage to the enemy units. Now, I can decide what to do next, and I definitely want to take control of these enemy territories rather than sack or raise them. Because that's going to give me another city, so that seems like a good thing. Now, I need to be able to keep the city for 4 more turns, but considering how many units I have in the vicinity, I think we should be fine with that. It is a little confusing, though, that even though I am now currently trying to occupy the city, there are still armies here, I can't seem to attack these armies because it says, well, the district is already being captured, and I know that is the case, but I kind of want to get rid of these armies that are still in here. Well, maybe they'll come with the city, who knows, but I highly doubt that is the case. However, I was able to once again upgrade my main hero, or I guess neither of them are really my main hero, I suppose. Let's see, what else can I do? I think getting shooting expertise. Whenever I use an active skill on an enemy unit, I apply marked and cursed. But that seems like a pretty good thing. That is just going to weaken whoever I'm shooting at. So, you know, that's never a bad thing. I'm just going to keep these armies around for a couple of turns until this occupation comes through. I'm also still drowning in influence right now, so what I can do is attach this now to Garen's Rest, because I have more space for that thanks to some new technology. And there we go. Now we have this massive territory over here, and in the meanwhile I also expanded this once. I kind of want to do it again, but I got some enemy units that are stuck in the way. So I definitely want to at some point take this zone, so I don't need to take that into account, that I don't want to expand further than I need to until I get that, and we should be getting another city on top of what we already have. So if I now look at the scores, how are we doing? There's still someone above me, and this guy has a massive military score and a territory score, so I'm a little bit afraid of that. But I'm assuming that once we knock this guy down to 1 city, at least I assume he only has 2 or something like that, that is going to bump us up high enough to take the first place, and we only have 26 turns remaining. There's some other things we could do to raise our score though, and that's currently the only thing that I can do to win. That's basically just researching more technology. You can see we are at 1750 of that already, which is a lot higher than this guy is. But what else can we do? We can do some more diplomacy, some government score, city development score, item collection score. Basically just gather more of everything, but especially expanding is going to be a massive increase to my score. I actually completely forgot to rebuild these other 2 cities, so let me do that straight away. And then what else are we going to do here? I could get an improvement over here. Not sure what this is going to do, but this is going to boost my district fortification even further. Not sure that that's the most useful, but it would unlock the next stage of my... Would it unlock the next stage? We need 450 for that. And how much would that be? Let me check. The improvement. It's actually not quite enough, but we could always just build some more keeps. I mean... It's almost becoming a little bit ridiculous at this point, but the keeps themselves do give me some fortification as well. But, you know, why not? Now, what we can also spend our influence on is getting some of these additional zones. I haven't really done that yet. As you can see, I can buy additional zones to add them to my territory. Let me see if there's a particular direction I want to expand in, if there's very valuable anomalies, for example. I don't think there are. There's pretty strong one over here, but that is quite far out. There's just some food along the way. Not super useful. What we could do, for example, is take this one. Can we take more than one at the same turn? No. Oh, we can take... Why can't they take this one? I want to take this one. Is it too close to the border or something? Not entirely sure why that is. There are some more valuable things up down here, so maybe we could take some zones like that, and all of that should also still increase my my score. Now maybe what is the issue here is that I am expanding and I can't just double expand in the same direction, so I can only pick some of these choices that I already have available to me, and that is it. So you can see there's no new zones being added, but that might be that I can still add that in the next turn. Seems the enemy wants to do a last-ditch effort to try and keep its own city, and of course we're not going to let that happen. We have quite a few units here that we can bring to the reinforcements. Do I prefer one over the other? Not really. These units are all at maximum HP though, so I think this would make sense. Let's confirm. Can we just do an instant resolution and kill them all? Yep. Yes, we can. There we go. That cleans up that quite nicely. We get some dust out of that. And that does take care of all those armies. And honestly, not having to fight all these trivial battles yourself is always a very big boon to a game that uses like manual combat, but it also wants to streamline its gameplay. A brilliant empire fell into ashes, will it be remembered at the end. So did we actually just completely wipe this enemy off the map? I guess we did. All the attached territories went away with it though, so that's... I was actually kind of expecting that the entire zone would be conquered, but apparently that is not how that works, so that is good to know. But that does mean we now have another city where we can just do a lot of things. There's a lot of necrophages in the city populating it though, so that is that's a thing. These guys are actually pretty efficient. They generate food, industry, or influence depending on their role, and those are all bonuses that kind of match what you were trying to do anyway. So we have necrophages in our empire now. That is very interesting, but it also means that we now go to the screen. Ooh, we're just in second place. Not sure why these guys are still in here. They have been eliminated, so I guess they still keep their technology and stuff. But yeah, I was hoping to get a boost to the first place, but it seems we have to try and expand a little bit further, get some more technologies and stuff like that, and see what we can do with that. Now, the real question is, can I tell what actually gives me government score? I can't tell, so that would be a nice pop-up for this screen. So we obviously have a massive population and we get a lot for that. But we only get 1,000 for government score. And how much do you get for government score? Also just 1,000. So it's mostly just military why this guy is scoring higher than I am. So what I could do is just build myself a whole bunch of military units. Something else that's really cool is because I unlocked some new technologies, I can now start upgrading my units. Now, sometimes you need these special resources in order to do that, but depending on how you upgrade them, they will get different abilities. So, for example, I can have these guys better at teaming up, or I can make them better at defending themselves. And honestly, the way I've been playing, I think this makes a lot of sense. So I can actually both give them these upgrades, and not only do they become a lot stronger in terms of defense and health, but they, like I said, they also get that ability. And you can pretty much just go through your army and see whether or not you want to upgrade them. Now, I just got an option to upgrade with just dust, but as you can see, these upgrades do actually require other things. So this would make them the perfect scout. So actually, let's go with that as well. And that should make actually scouting out this area a lot easier. Now, ideally, I want to find some glass steel for my quest. Not sure if I have the time to complete that, honestly, but I'm a little bit surprised that I have found so little rare resources so far. Mostly because in my previous games, I found them all over the place, pretty close to where I started at. But, you know, that's the RNG, and that also keeps the game interesting. Did some more combat, found a new weapon, and this one I can actually equip. It's an upgrade to the weapon I already had on Rekka, which is going to allow me to have one additional resilience, a lot more damage, and a lot more defense as well. So, you know, and it's very nice because I did comment over here, found that weapon here, but I can just instantly equip it on the hero that is on the other side of the map. So you don't have to worry about inventory, carrying items from A to B or whatever. That is just annoying, that is just micromanagement, and at least not something I would typically prefer. Did some more combat, and now my hero is high enough level that it can start to build a haven. This is going to allow me to unlock even more benefits from having these heroes around. As a side note, I was wondering before whether or not it would take a moment for the buffs to kick in, and the answer is yes, but as you can see, these are now very strong heroes just by themselves from all the buffs they're getting from my minor factions. So I've built my haven, and I can now inspect my hero and add a companion. And what is this going to do? I can get additional capture points or a whole lot of bonuses on my haven per hero level. And considering my hero is level 5, that is quite a bit. I think that bonus is applied to everything. Yeah, so actually just going for a flat 20% damage on my hero is going to be super useful. And of course, the additional production is not going to hurt either. We can also recruit ourselves a third hero, and honestly, I might go for Sandy here, because getting the ability to build my units for a lot cheaper is probably a pretty interesting thing to have at this point. Now, that does mean I need to go to my council. I can remember where that is. I think it's just in here, right? There is yeah, it is over here. So, honestly, the 15 industry right now is probably not the most valuable ammo. This one definitely still needs to be in there. So what I could do is, where are you? Here, I can assign you to this, apply these changes, and now I can build my army a lot quicker. As a bonus, since the upkeep on my existing army is a lot cheaper now, I'm also producing a massive amount of dust as a result of this. I am also at the 3rd tier of technology now, and you know what's better than very powerful keeps? Even more powerful keeps, because I can upgrade them with the Wisdom of Garen, which is the technology I get a 50% discount on, by the way, because we did that quest. And this is going to allow me to get +2 signs on my military districts. But on top of that, I can build this improvement, which is going to give 2 industry for each adjacent district on my keep as well. So, you know, this is just going to supercharge my keeps even further. And there we go. So that should already give me the +2 on the military district. So let's check that out. Look at some of these districts over here. Not this one, but this one, for example. Well, actually, it is this one. Look at that. I thought it was the city center, but my keeps are now stronger than my city center. So, you know, and I have several more of those around. But now if I go to Garen's Rest, I can build an improvement. Let's see, which one was it? The Legion Bolts? No, it was the Legion's Workshop. That is going to be making them even powerful. Don't need any special resources for that either. So that is super useful. And yeah, at this point, I think I'm just doing victory laps because I have 16 turns more to go. And I'm slowly pulling ahead of my enemy that is still doing very well, don't get me wrong. But yeah, we are considerably ahead of them. Something else that helps to boost your score is getting some of these deeds complete. These are basically some achievements that you can complete to be the first in a specific area. We can check out the quest journal for the other ones, by the way, so let me do that for a second. You can be the first one to eliminate a certain amount of units, you can have a large city, and so on. So basically, if you just focus on a specific area, you can get some of the rewards. They will actually give you a bonus as well. I think they should also give you a score bonus. Let's see. Yeah, not entirely sure if I actually got a bonus from that, but as you can see, we are still edging out a victory. What I really want to do is just get some more cities and other areas going, and that should keep me ahead of the enemy, at least for the last 12 turns of this game. Time to dive ourselves into a dungeon. Now you can plunder these dungeons to get some influence out of that, or you can seize them and that will put a camp in place of where the fortress was before. Now if you check this out, this is a reasonable location, but sometimes these camps are just in a very awkward position, so you do need to think about that for a moment. Where is our battle now? Hello? There we go. We want to... I think we want to seize it and actually do get a camp there. You cannot instant resolute a fortress though, so you do need to actually play out these battles yourself. It's not the end of the world. Apparently I can't bring in any reinforcements either though, even though I had several of them around. It's a little bit unfortunate, but again, it is what it is, and I think we should be able to do just fine. And there we go, we did lose a couple of units, but honestly at this point I'm not too bothered about that, and we get some pretty decent armor upgrades as well for all of our heroes. And last but not least, we actually get access to this territory, so we can now lock that to Fort Raya and make sure we can start mining some of this titanium. There's actually 2 deposits over here, which is really nice. And once these are completed, let's speed that up a little bit. There we go. We're now gonna get a inflow of titanium, which I can use to upgrade pretty much all of my units. I mean, not all of them at the same time, but we're going to get 2 of that titanium per turn, thanks to this new zone. And that is going to add up really quickly. Well, I've been steadily increasing my territory by adding more pieces to my cities, but honestly, as you can see, I have a pretty decent area now. I can attach this to another city. There we go. Does that help my score at all? Yeah, that's another 100 points. So I'm still slightly ahead of the enemy, but it is actually cutting things pretty close. Now what I want to do is settle another city over here in the south, mostly because I can. And by doing that, hopefully we will be able to make sure we keep the lead for those last few turns. Speaking of cities, it's important to know that initially I only had a cap of 3, but now I have some more technology going. I am actually all the way up to a city cap of 4. Well, all the way up sounds like it's a huge difference. It is not. I also can apparently appoint someone else to my council. So let's see. What do I want over here? Maybe influence cost on foundations, so I can expand my cities a little bit further. And then what I could also do maybe near the end is buy another few zones. But all in all, I am going to be pretty much cutting it close on getting enough of that influence going for my last city. What's also interesting is that there are these kind of like super enemies on the map. These only spawn during monsoons as far as I can tell, and these are doom wraiths. So if you can defeat one of those, I think that's actually another deed completed. But these things have a huge amount of power. As you can see, this is an army of almost 1200, although I have quite a bit more in the area, so I might as well see if I can take one of these on. Seems the answer is yes, even with instant resolution, and look at that, that's 2 more rare items for my heroes, some other pretty valuable resources as well, and of course a lot of experience for my entire army. I think this is enough to almost level them up more than a complete level at once. Well, it took me nearly to the end of the demo, but I actually found the other civilization. They seem to be right over here where I wanted to build my new city. All the way here in the corner, as you can see. Now, honestly, this is not the worst position, because that means I can now start bringing all my armies to this side, make sure I stay safe. And how are we doing on score? Yeah, we have been pulling ahead quite a bit now, thanks to the addition of some additional territories, doing the deeds. Yeah, doing the deeds, that sounds really bad. Anyway, yeah, just a few more turns to go and we should have this in the pocket. Oh look, and there's the other civilization as well. Well, isn't this a nice fun corner of the world then? Or is that actually where they're coming from? Because I can't tell. Can I see that? No. We've met them, but where we've met them, we have no idea. I'm assuming it's in this corner because this is where most of the movement has been happening. And there we go, that was 87 turns worth of game time. It was over 3 hours just playing. Hopefully the video ends up a little bit shorter than that. But it hopefully does give you a bit of an insight into how this game actually plays. Obviously the actual game playthroughs will be much longer because we're now just manually cutting it off because we're at the end of the demo. But there is a lot more to explore in this game, and I'm really having a great time with this already. I kind of keep forgetting that it is still just a demo. There's hours and hours of gameplay in here if you want it to be. So yeah, let me know in the comments if this is also at all interesting to you. It is a different type of video than what I normally make, but I wanted to try it out, and yeah, if you're still here, of course, you are awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.